Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kingdom News, where we talk to Kingdom citizens about the news that they need to know about. So today, Kingdom Kinfolk, we're going to be talking about the many different issues that the governments across the world are having. Now, a lot of us are here in the U.S. You know, many people are watching from the U.S. who are here in my audience. But if you're watching from anywhere across the world, welcome. But here in the U.S., a lot of times we can kind of think like, oh, you know, you could be real, like, I don't want to say closed-minded, but you can really only think about like what's going on within the walls of the US of A. But across the world, there's so many different governments and things like that that are going through so many different problems. And us as Kingdom citizens, we know that we don't depend on world governments. We depend on the Kingdom government. But it's also good to know the things that are going on in the world around you so that we can better prepare for the things that are coming up, so you can be knowledgeable of the things that's going on, so you can tell others about the times that we are in and things of that nature. So today there's a few things that I want to actually talk about that's going on in the world today, and that's really affecting the governments of these different countries, which are at the same time affecting citizens of those countries. So first I want to talk about, you see behind me here are different inflation rates that are going on within many different countries within the world. Now, inflation is up everywhere. This is not just an American thing, it's an everywhere thing. Stuff is going up everywhere. And some of the most prevalent countries that we have that are the major ones, the US has an inflation rate of 8.5%. Now, that's the highest it's been in like 40 years. Canada has an inflation rate of 6.8%. That's the highest it's been in like 31 years. Britain has an inflation rate of 9%, which is the highest it's been in 40 years. And India wholesale inflation is 15.8%. That's the highest it's been in 9 years. So we're seeing we're breaking all types of records with the type of inflation that's going on. Now, so this isn't something that, you know, you can just relate it to something else. No, this is something that across the world, this is really unprecedented. So it's gotten bad at so many places. Like countries like Sri Lanka, Peru, and Argentina are rioting. They're actually going in the streets causing havoc because of the inflation that's going on, what it's costing them for to take care of their families, the prices of things going up everywhere. I mean, everybody's feeling a pinch. But the things that I'm saying right now aren't even the worst of it. We're going to talk about some other countries right now that are going through some stuff that are traumatic. So we know the war that's going on in Ukraine right now is something that's really affecting the whole world. Wheat is one of the things that many people talk about is being affected as far as like the different countries getting them, because I think the percentages is in between Russia and Ukraine. That's like 30% of the wheat that goes out throughout the world comes from them. If we look at other places like Iraq's wheat production is set to fall as much as 50% this year. Strict quotas by the government on water supply irrigation helps this, but water shortages by high temperatures, drought, and water being used by Iraq's neighbors. Dams are being built that hurt Iraq. Also, the Iraqi government slashed subsidies last year on essential farm needs like fertilizer, pesticides, and things of that nature. So basically, the money that the government was giving to these farmers and stuff like that for to be able to produce their crop, they've slashed them. Now, along with this and all the things that the weather is doing with climate change and stuff like that, their wheat production is set to reduce by 50%. Now, that is traumatic for the country. 50%. Now, you can imagine the things that the people are feeling right now when that's one of the main things that they do as far as like farming in their country. So you can imagine, not even talking about the war in Ukraine that we mentioned earlier, that's affecting everybody. So they have that and the stuff that's going on in their own country that's affecting their wheat production. So that's another thing that's going on in the world, and we'll get on to the next one. So next we're going to be talking about Sri Lanka and the things that they have going on, and they're having severe food shortages. So we talk about here in the US the food shortages that we have, but if we look at other places in the world, it's getting pretty crazy for them. So if we look at Sri Lanka, it has food shortages that are causing people to have to wait hours in line for basic needs. There's also fuel shortages in countries. Some people are having to wait 12 hours in line for fuel. You know, one woman was speaking about how she would actually go to work from where she was. Like, she would do her job and stuff as much as she could from where she was sitting in line. The COVID pandemic and falling incomes are some of the main reasons why this is happening. One woman says that she usually supports her family on $140 a month, but now she has to help her family and supply for her family with half of that. So only $140 a month, and that's being slashed in half. And that's just her store, no telling the stories of the many people that lives in the country that's going on. So that's something that's really happening in Sri Lanka. It's like, once again, I repeat, it's not just the US. We have to really go and look and see how the world is suffering. It's everybody. And I can say from myself reading these stories that here in the US we should really say how blessed we are, that it's not as bad as you're seeing in other places. And we have like chance to prepare and things of that nature, when these places it's just hitting them like all of a sudden. And this last one we're going to get into is going to show that it's really bad out here for some places. So in East Africa, there's been droughts going on that has millions and millions of people facing starvation. So nations like Kenya, Somalia, and other countries have been hit with severe drought. Millions are facing starvation. 4 seasons of poor rainfall, killed livestock, and more have caused people to leave their homes. 16.7 million people are suffering from acute hunger, and numbers are projected to go up to as high as 20 million. The Russia and Ukraine war are affecting these areas also, with food price increases. An appeal by the UN World Food Program raised less than 4% of the funds that it would take to help these people. So, and it's sad when you go and look at the pictures of these things, like how just dry the area is, how severely hungry not only the humans but the livestock that these people use to survive on, how skinny they are. It's just, when you look around, it's just desolation everywhere. It's pretty sad, really sad. In 2011 they gave some research information on how in 2011 there was a lot of people who died from starvation, and a lot of those people, like half of them, were people under 6 years old. So that's really, really sad. And that's stuff that's going on in the world, but you really don't hear about it. Here in the world, not in the world, but here in the US and things like that, a lot of people are just so distracted by things like entertainment and things like that. And the world is, media and stuff like that is just built for distraction. The word entertainment is made of 3 separate words. Enter, then tain comes from retain, and then meant. Enter into the mind, retainment, and meant is a suffix that's meaning what it's meant for. So it's meant to enter your mind and to retain it. So we know a lot of times when we hear companies like Netflix and stuff like that talk about how many hours they have logged in, each month or each year and stuff like that people are watching. Many people are, focused on themselves. Many people are focused on their entertainment. Most people are focused on things that's going to make them feel good. And when it comes to things of the world, the scripture says, the love of many will grow cold. A lot of people really aren't looking at the world and thinking of the things that they can do to change it. They're really just thinking about their self-preservation. And then a lot of times you might think it's not the case when you just doing your work and going home, but that's really what it is. Us as mankind, we're meant to be out here helping one another. I'm not talking about out here just giving money and stuff, but even just spreading like information and knowledge and helping people come into the truth of what's going on. But the main thing I want to get into is really just talking about, putting our faith in these governments. As we see from these different stories, people are dying. It's so much stuff going on. People are rioting in streets because they're so sick of what their government is doing or not doing. Not helping the people, and they're basically just set out here to survive. But we know the people who are on top, the rich of the world, they're not worried about missing a meal or missing this or missing that. They're in a position where they're going to be fine. But what about the people that don't have like the millions or hundreds of thousands and things like that? What are they left to? And we're seeing from these stories and stuff like that, a lot of people are just left high and dry, to figure it out or just to endure until this is going on. So the scripture lets us know that there's a scripture, I can't remember exactly where it is. I'll put it up here on the screen. But he talks about how a lot of people used to have faith in Egypt, and the father would laugh at them, just thinking like, how can you just be so confident in these worldly things, these small things compared to who I am? I made all this. But so many people have faith in these governments, and these governments are failing, and that's why we have to solely depend on the kingdom government for our provisions. That's the answer, the kingdom government. And that's what we do here at Kingdom News. We giving you stuff from a kingdom perspective. You have so many of these other places they give news and they put their political views and all that other stuff on it. Well, we're here to put a kingdom perspective on things. You know, we don't depend on world governments. We've seen over and over again what they do and how it works. You know, I mean, this issue with the war in Russia and Ukraine. I mean, they're seeing like the amount of lives and stuff they're affecting, but at the end of the day, they have their own political agendas that they're trying to get across. So that's what I want to encourage you guys on today, or this news is coming from today. Notice the things that's going on in the world. You know, this is what we're doing it for. You need to know what's going on. You need to know the signs of the times. You need to know what's happening around you. There's a much bigger picture to the world, and these things can end up affecting us or you wherever you are. Like this war again, it's affecting everybody. So we need to know what's going on, where things are headed, where stuff has been. Know your history. So this is what we're here for, to keep you knowledgeable, so you can understand what's going on in the times. You can understand the signs of the times. People, a lot of people say it all the time. You hear people say we're in the end times, but that's true. I mean, not saying, you know, the stuff is going to end anytime soon. Nobody knows that time exactly, but just know the times that we're in and that you need to be prepared. So these are the stories that I wanted to come to you guys with today. Be blessed, shalom, and see you on the next one.